All right, so custom fields. What are custom fields and how do you use them? Well, there's a bunch of different ways that you can use custom fields, but think of it like this. Have you ever felt like there must be some kind of way of setting a page or a posting to behave in a certain way given a key and a value pair? Or what I like to say as kind of a variable and a value pair, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so again, if we look at the page that we're on right now, each of these subpages are all the same root level of, those are subpages to WEB170, and so on and so forth. How I get them to separate then into the camps of class and lectures, etc., is like this. So let's look at the new theme that I am currently working on right now. Let me actually log into my site. And I'm using a plugin that basically will display the theme I'm working on while I'm logged in, but you guys don't see it because you're not logged into my site. But if we go to Pages, and we look at my page tree here, well, let's just look at ITC 298 so I don't have to go scrolling through everything. You can see in my page tree, schedule spring 01 proposal project activities, introduction to user requirements. This is a lecture, this is an assignment, this is the schedule under the class. So they're all at the same root level in terms of, they're all just subpages to the parent page of 298. So how then do I my new navigation takes a long time to load because what you're not seeing that navigation do is it is loading all the subpages as well in the main navigation, right? So remember that big function I told you I had to write? It's, yeah, you're not seeing them. But, yeah, Jake.
Are you updating your site?
Meaning?
Is this a new theme?
This is the new theme that I'm working on.
Is it responsive?
Not yet, but it will be. But for instance, this right here, these are now not background files, right? This is all box, line, and artwork, right? Or line work. So yeah, I'm right now updating my theme. It's not live just yet because I haven't finished it. But what I'm doing is I'm using a plugin that uses this theme when you're logged in. So now that I'm logged in, you can see my new theme in transition where I've got the latest videos in Sidebar. I've got my social icons there. I've cut down my affiliates to only 4. There are some other significant changes, but one way, shape, or form, all of these pages here then are subpages. So if we are on the using custom fields in your WordPress site, lecture, how do I get that navigation or that item to sit all the way down here and under lectures? Well, if I go to the edit admin view, this is where I've said the parent page is WEB170, the order is 17, okay? So it is the 17th lecture in this series, right? To then get it to sit inside of the camp of lecture, then what I've done is use custom fields to set up a field or a key called navigation with a value of lecture. So this is the key value pair, right? Or what you can say is the variable value pair. So if I then went to, let's say, the schedule for this class and open up a new tab, because I'm addicted to opening new tabs, right? That plugin that I found has actually helped. So, but if I go and edit the schedule page here, this is where parent is WEB170, order is 0, custom field navigation value of class. Okay, so if we go now and in my new theme, which again you guys can't see just yet, sorry, and go to my GitHub, and here's the new theme. So if I go to Sidebar, this will look very, very familiar to you, right? If the page has a post parents, right? Here's where I had to hack it a little bit and write up a syllabus page where a syllabus page doesn't exist. It's the main gateway page. But anyway, but this should look familiar to you. WP list pages, array, child of, post parent, title li, get the title, then lectures. In other words, get the title, WEB170, lectures, assignments, exercises, teams, students. Meta key, navigation, meta value, lecture. So it's those custom fields, the key value pairs, that I'm saying, in this case, grab the key of navigation, put all the lecture list pages here, all the assignment list pages, all the exercise, team, and students, right? So if then there are class pages, it'll show them, lecture pages, it'll show them, assignment pages, so on and so forth. If there is, for instance, no exercises, because exercises was my label from 532, it doesn't show them because there are none to show, right? Does that make sense? So that's one way of then using the key. So what are custom fields, right? WordPress defines the use of custom fields as having the ability to allow post authors to assign metadata to a post. This metadata is handled with the key value pairs. The key is the name of the metadata element. The value is the information that will appear. Okay, like I said, variable value is how I kind of understand it. So therefore, here's the example that here's where I start now. I started exploring custom fields when I was doing my school site, and I had to break those navigation items into their separate camps. I then used custom fields on the RIW website, where what we did there was banner equals then the image, right? So we set the key to banner. So if I go in and go to rehabwashington.com and go to their live site, and they don't know that I'm going to be logging into their live site right now, unless my wife actually watches this video. But since she's dead set on not watching these videos, even though I've said, oh, sweetie, you should totally check out my WordPress lectures, right, on video, she's not really interested. So she's not going to know that I'm going to log into her site, is basically what I'm saying. That'll be our little secret. So if we're here, right, on these pages, then the gateway pages have this banner of this image and then these quotes. So each gateway page has its own image. Each subpage then does not, right? So what I originally did when I originally did this site in 2010 was I set up 2 template pages. Page with spotlight, page without spotlight. Okay? So that's the long way of going about it. The easier way of going about it was to say, if the key of banner is true, meaning, did we use the key of banner? If we did, so it's in a conditional statement, if we did, write the markup, use, so echo then the key of banner as the value for the source attributes. Okay? So if we're here, obviously, expect element, spotlight, image, source attribute, source attribute, blah, 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 in their uploads folder. Look at that, I have a double slash there. That shouldn't be like that. Here I am testing for errors on the fly. It's awesome, but it still works. So that image, right? If we're then here on the pain management program, middle, no spotlight, okay?
GitHub.
So this is exactly what I'm going to have you guys do, right? If you put in a custom field, show the value of the custom field. It's basically all this is, right? So we're using the GetPostMeta function for post ID, meaning whatever page you're on. Look for the key of banner, see if it's true. Here, if it is true, echo the value of the key of banner, which this looks kind of funny. I do it a different way than how it is done in how the codex tells you to do it. I have a habit of trimming extra code out. But nonetheless, if I'm here on programs and services and I go to edit this page, banner, value of banner, right? So basically what I did was...
Was that value to like an image? What is that? Where does that? Okay, so it's a. Okay.
Oh, look at that. That's where the extra slash is. Let's fix the mistake. Let's see if it works now. Let's see if I totally broke their site, shall we? Hey, didn't break their site. Good news, sweetie. I didn't break your site in class. She's not going to watch this. She's not going to even know that we're doing this, right? What was I talking about? Where was the value? So, Evan, you're asking where and why did I do this?
Where's that image store? Is it in your media somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
So, if
Just
we're
by the name, like the
right.
URL.
This link right here
Mm-hmm.
is the, remember how in Web 2.10 you had to do training documentation and I showed you my example training documentation?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the training documentation for when I did this. Step 1, resize the image. Step 2, upload the image to the media library. Step 3, get the file URL.
Okay.
media. Oh, or I can go to the end, can't I? Well, it's in there somewhere. I'm not going to go bother finding for it. Let's just open this one.
Yeah, just open one. I can see
Right.
it.
File URL.
Okay.
Right. So when you upload it, it's going to tell you where the file URL is.
Okay.
Okay. That's basically your answer,
Mhm.
right? So here then in this training documentation, I told them to go and upload that file, take a look where the file URL is, copy that, go to whatever page, choose the field of banner, and paste it in there,
Okay.
right? Then preview it. So if we're here then, right, here are then the key value pairs or the keys that exist in there right now. Some of them are being used, some of them aren't. I think at one point I was doing the navigation the same way I was doing it in my school site, where in my school site I'm saying page, so let me say this. So if we're in my school site, navigation equals class, put this under the class portion. If we are on the root WEB170 page, navigation main, page, current page item, roots, syllabus, right? So these are different fields, different key value pairs that I'm using one way, shape, or form
Things.
as a taxonomy, right? In other words, I'm categorizing these pages without using tags or categories, because those tags and categories are how you use tags and categories on postings, right? But if you want to then use key value pairs in whatever way you want to do it on your site, you can say,
So it just makes it easy to write a loop and just access certain
whatever,
information.
right? Access all the, yeah. So like if you wanted to say access all the main whatever, right? Because that's how then if we go to my new function for my main navigation, which I tucked away in my functions file, get my main menu, main pages, get pages. So get all pages with the meta key of navigation with the value of main, right? Store that. For each main pages, meaning all pages that have the key of navigation value of main, as main. So Alexander, I did change it to main here, right?
Oh, nice.
So then if is page main ID, if is the current page, then write in current page item, so on and so forth. But this is where I had to split the values of getting, you know, the main navigation and then tuck all the sub navigation inside there. So yeah, the old way I was doing it was just populating my main navigation with saying list pages, navigation equals main here, navigation equals utility up here, right? That's how I segregated them into certain camps. Other instances of how you can then do that is, you know, banner, this value, okay? So how then you structurally use them is one way, shape, or form you can say things like main page equals navigation is equal to main, right? So this is where I basically said, yeah, if we're on main pages or children of main pages, write in the sub-navigation in that area, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just another way of adding the, like I said, key values, right? So what we're going to do then is in our sidebar, we're going to put a quote. If quote is equal to true, write a block quote tag. Echo the quote, the value of quote, right? So custom fields, blah, blah, blah. So how do I use custom fields? So here's where I used, like I said in the lecture here, where I said, if the key of banner exists, put the source of an image into the image tag. Else, don't. So again, what does the code look like? If it's true, write your markup and use that value here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom field. So, you guys ready? So, so if I log in, and I go to pages, let's say I want to put a quote on my about page, right? So right now, if I go down to custom fields, I don't have any custom fields, right? Well, if you're not seeing your custom fields, go to your screen options up here in the top right corner. I'm not a fan of the screen options thing. I just think they should always show all that stuff, but that's my opinion, right? Don't you feel the same way? But if your custom fields are not turned on, go and turn them on. So right now, we have nothing. Let's make a custom field called quote. Let's put in the value of, this is one of my favorite quotes of mine. Market is flooded with my 2 cents. Means I have a lot of opinions. And I tell you my opinions. You can put in whatever you want. You can even name this whatever you want. I'm just choosing to name it quotes with uppercase Q. Right? Now that I've done that, I say add custom field. So now it's there. So if I then went to all pages and went to, I don't know, portfolio, I would now see a select menu because I've put a custom field in. I would choose quote. Now, my one goal in life is to have somebody that I do not know say this back to me. In other words, this is something I made up and I'm really proud of because the market is flooding with my 2 cents, you understand. Patience is, I tell my kid, patience is not just a Guns N' Roses song. So he's going to grow up thinking that that's just a normal saying in everyday life, right? Updates. Did I update my about page? Let's see.
It doesn't seem like you need to do it for it to stay there.
What?
It doesn't seem like you need to do it for it to stay there.
Really? Let's go back
I
to.
just did the same thing and I went back.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, it's there. Great. So now I have 2 pages that have a key value pair. Great. What do I do now?
Do it on other pages.
Well, you can put it in the other pages, but now we need to implement it, right? In other words, now we need to write the code that says if that value exists or if that key exists, get the value, okay? So once you turn them on, turn your custom fields on, fill in the name field, fill in the value field, click add custom field. So again, quote, market is flooded with my 2 cents. So let's talk about basically what we want to do, right? Do all of you guys know the idea of pseudocode? Meaning, when you guys are trying to solve a problem in code, right? You can write it much more, in other words, if we go to the Wikipedia pseudocode, okay, right? This is where you would actually write out, not necessarily in proper code the way it's written in the syntax, but you would write out things like, if the custom field of quote exists, write the markup to display my quote, place the custom field value of key of quote in an element, right? So if the custom field of quote exists, so what we need to do is write out our if statement, right? So I'm just going to go back to Dreamweaver and let's see, begin sidebar, end sidebar, this page.
Should this be on like pages.php or should it doesn't?
You can put it wherever you want to. I'm choosing to put it in my sidebar because here's the end result, right?
It'll work all the same no matter where you.
Really? Yeah. So the end result is if we look at my little demo here.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I thought we were gonna put it smack in the center.
You can put it wherever you want to, right? Okay. You can use it. I mean, you can put it up here as like a banner type thing if you want to.
Yeah.
I don't care where you put it.
I get it. That's a yeah.
You know.
Okay.
But yeah, so I basically put it here, right? So let me actually make some comments here. Begin subjugation. PHP, so if, I'm just gonna type in a fake variable for the time being. And I'm going to do one of the conditional statements that uses the quote, the colon. And if, so now what we want to do is I want to say if that key exists, okay? So that's where we're going to use the GetPostMeta function. Okay. So this is where you can say echo GetPostMeta. Oops. This is where you can write out the value of whatever the key is, right? If you're using an echo statement. But you can also, just by using that function, check for if that value exists, right? So if GetPostMeta, right? Now, the post meta then wants to accept 3 parameters. Post ID or whatever, post parent or whatever, right? The key, what we set it to, the Boolean true or false, okay? Post, spell it correctly, post, ID, post, true, right? So, see if that works. Here? No, because it's a if statement. And I'll use just my standard okay. So again, what I'm testing for is if the key of quote exists, right, submark. Okay. So now yeah.
If you are referencing your field as full quote, you need to put that in where it says quote, or, I mean, is that like a variable or the quote reference in your PHP statement?
This,
yeah.
That equals this. Yeah, so that is, so if we look at, it's actually close on these windows. So if we're here on using custom fields, so basically what I took you to, if you clicked on the GetPostMeta function, right, is it took you to, so if we go all the way back up here and say custom fields, using custom fields, This kind of gives you the general use of what are custom fields, key value pair. So the key goes under the name, right? And is going to be case sensitive, okay? Where then we use then the GetPostMeta, whatever post ID we're on or what we want to get, right? So in our case, we want to actually get the value for the page that we're on, which is the variable post, the property of ID, okay? Then we want to pass the arguments through here, right? So there's different ways of doing it where here is one way of doing it where you basically make a variable called key, you know, whatever your value is, and then pass that here, where I just think that's kind of redundant. Why don't I just write my key there versus why do I always have to, if I'm just going to use it once, right? If I'm not going to reuse that value, right? So that's where then this is basically the code that we're using, right? So we can then say echo, well, let's go back here. So what I just did then was this page then has a custom field with the name of quotes. So it's true. I then wrote in the conditional, if true, write submark, right? So if I then go to contact, doesn't have it. If I go to portfolio, well, remember I put in the same thing. So now what I want to do is just grab the value of whatever I put in there, right? Which is basically taking this function. I wrote it once already, so I can copy it. Use an echo statement to call that. Now here, Victoria, is where I need a semicolon because now that's a statement. Does that make sense? Versus it being a condition. So now I should have on portfolio, if I refresh that, it should say patience is not just a Guns N' Roses song. If I go to about, it should say the market is flooded with my 2 cents. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the basics of using custom fields. Right? Because that's the way that you could have segregated all your stuff, right? So it's just another way of using a taxonomy, using a labeling and categorization schema, right?
Could you go back to the code for 2 seconds?
That's all it is. Yeah.
How attached are you to this code in the sidebar?
I just asked.
I couldn't give a fill in the blank. Yeah, I don't care. You can do it with an image, you can do it with whatever. Just when I look through your code, right, define where it is, you know. Yeah. This is just an easy way of, you know, it's a practical example, you know, but yeah, you could use it for, like I said, if you wanted to do a banner image, if you wanted to segregate pages into camps, like all of these pages are. So this is where in the 210 class, where Jeff was working on the student leadership website, there are all these clubs, right? Is that what it is? Yes. So each club has their own page or something. So you could segregate them into clubs, organizations, whatever, right? So, that makes sense? In other words, you could separate, if you needed clubs, organizations, and I don't know, pick another something. Boards, right? You could say, what would be the key? Those are the values, what would be the key?
Well, the actual problem is the clubs.
Groups, sounds great. Groups, clubs, organizations, what was the third one?
Clubs and groups and committees.
Committees. It's not what you said, but that's how you could segregate things.
Can you pull it? Is there a way to pull that key name?
I don't know.
I'm sure there is.
Let's see. See what the Google machine says. Maybe.
I think it's right there. That's
Yeah.
the code.
You know, I mean,
A little complicated.
I don't know. Let's see what this, well, post ID, yeah. So if I say
It's post-meta key.
post meta key, let's say, let's do this. Just test. Echo, whoops. Echo post. Even my tooltips ends up going off. You're saying post meta key? Well, let's do this one. Get post custom keys. Or the post ID. I don't know. Just see if that works at all. Just gives you the array of whatever. Yeah. Yeah. There's probably a way. But anyhow, that's how to use custom fields. Woo! Okay. Now let's put a widget into your sidebar. Yeah? Great. So using custom fields, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Keep going, keep going. Yay, my quote goes there. Then I styled it. You can style yours to make it look nice. I'm not going to go through the motions of styling one. Add a widget to your site. So, how many of you have gone looking for widgets in your admin and you can't find them? Nobody? Really? No curious cows in here? Huh?
I was curious.
You're curious? That's all I'm asking for, is somebody to say yes to my, right? So if we go to our dashboard, and we wait because my server is probably crashed, hopefully not.
Mine's been the same, I don't know.
Have you noticed that just in general, the internet is running really, really slow in America these days? It's a conspiracy. So if I'm in my dashboard and I go to appearance where they should be, I think that's where they are, I got no widgets, right? If I am in my school site and I go to dashboard, there are widgets right there.
I have widgets on mine, but I think it's because I added something.
So you have to enable widgets in your functions file. what am I calling it? Add widgets to your sidebar. Oops, that's the assignment, not the lecture. Using widgets in your WordPress site. So, the term sidebar can be kind of confusing because there's sidebar.php and then there are dynamic sidebars, which are two different things, right? Dynamic sidebars are what you would register. Dynamic sidebars then are what you place widgets in. Did that make sense at all? Yes? Awesome. Well, there you have it then. So, did you just mock me?
Oh, no, not at all. I just wasn't paying attention.
Right, because you guys are over there talking, blah, 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 blah.
Good ideas.
Right.
Not that yours are.
I've been wanting to shush you this whole time, you two.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Never again.
Rosie.
You can blame the TA. That's not bad.
Yeah, I will. So if I go to widgets here, that's not what I want.
What is access my page? I've gotten to that before too, and I'm like, well, what do I do?
It's basically if you have one of their preset themes, you can customize stuff. It's basically kind of useless to you and me because we're not going to be doing things that way.
Yeah.
So if I go here to appearance, widgets. So here I'm in my school site. I have 3 sidebars registered, where in sidebar 1, I'm putting my subscribe widget and my today's events. In sidebar 2, I'm putting categories and links. In sidebar 3, I'm putting latest videos. Okay. So what I can do then is dynamic sidebar 1. If we're not on a page or search or 404, get dynamic sidebar 2, categories and links, sidebar 3. So this is the way that I can split some of my widgets up and basically say, hey, you set of widgets, you display here, you set of widgets, you display there, right? So this is where you can have multiple dynamic sidebars. You can also name them whatever you want to name them, okay? In this case, I didn't name them, but I registered multiple sidebars, okay? So in my functions file then, I used register sidebars, not sidebar, but the plural. And I said register 3 of them, okay? So therefore, I have 3 dynamic sidebars that then I can do something like meta. Is that the one? Come on. Let's move you up here. Or not. Screw it. There it is, meta. I can then add it to whatever sidebar I want to. I'm going to add it to sidebar 3, add widget. Now, it's in sidebar 3. because I put it in sidebar 3, it's showing up down at the bottom because I put sidebar 3 down at the bottom. Okay. So what I'm going to have you guys do. Yes, Rosie?
The class will be widgets on anytime you need to call one of those little, I've never done it the way with 1, 2, and 3, always labeled them like, this widget, this widget. So, when it's always going to be a class of widgets.
No. Let's go to the lecture page. No, it's a good question that I was actually going to get to. Here is the function register sidebar. So you can say name. Is that what you've used? Right? And put in whatever name you want to. Right? You can use whatever parameters you want. There is also then the so there's register sidebar and there is register sidebars. If you want to just do multiple ones, you can do it where you're saying sidebar and then whatever number, etc. Right? Or just, like I said, what I've done is what you can do is just pass in the parameter of number and then arguments from here if you want to. Right? So that's where. Here, I've done register sidebars. I've said register 3 of them. I don't care what they're named, right? So this is kind of the easy way. If you want to name them, then you would say, you could use the name property and put a value, right?
That seems easier. The other way was super confusing because you named it something and then the ID is different and then you can remember which one.
Yeah.
So that's just a little.
6 to 1, half a dozen the other, whatever you want to do. Like I said, if you want to actually give them unique names, you can actually say register sidebar, single, name. Register another sidebar, name. Right? Or do them all at once. We're just going to register one sidebar. So we're basically going to do this. That's where it is. Let me see. Register sidebar, parameters. Yeah, register sidebar. Blah. So let's see if I don't put any parameters in there, what it does. I just said, hey, register a sidebar. And if I refresh my appearance, widgets, sidebar 1. I can then go to Meta, put that in sidebar 1, and say, if I then visit site, oh, why is it not there?
Yeah, passing the argument.
Yeah, I didn't go to sidebar. Dynamic sidebar. sidebar. Ooh. Because there's only one, I don't think I have to pass an argument through it. Let's see. Don't you guys love how I just don't know stuff and test it on the fly in class? And I'm not afraid to just admit that.
They say the best way to learn is to teach.
But
They say the best way to learn is to teach.
It's true.
there's my poop. But that's not what I want. I want it to be in like an H tag. Right? So that's where I want to pass arguments through the array. So array. And that's where I have to go and remember what arguments does it take. Before title, after title. Give it a class if I wanted to, but I don't care. Why do I always do that? Why do I always say check? Let me go double check that I got before title, if I got those right. Before title, after title.
It is not equal.
It's right there.
No, after the total.
After here?
So,
No.
no.
No, because those, you don't even need that one. These are separating the array pairs. If that's the technical definition of the associative array key and value, isn't it? Key value pair? Yeah. I'm a designer. I don't know. So now, hopefully, my title should be in an H2 tag. Right? Go. Oh, it is. Why did it? Why does it look like a list item? Oh, that's right. Because it's being put in a list item. That's the other. In other words, if you don't want them in list items, you want them in divs or whatever you want them in. Before widget, after widget. Before widgets. Div. Widgets. Div. And then I typically go and say class widget just so I can, you know. There we go. So that's where then I might also here in my sidebar, right? If that's being div class widget, right? That's where in my sidebar, around my block quote, I might give that a div as well. For my sub navigation, so in case I wanted to like style all those chunks in my sidebar the same. Like,
So why are those other line items showing up in the first place? Where are they coming from?
where?
That site, yeah, those.
These? That's the widget, the meta widget.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Okay.
Let's see. Middle, sidebar, content, content, sidebar, sidebar, div, widget, margin, bottom, pixels. Anyhow. Woo. Now, if I wanted to, if I'm here and wanted to go and put in more widgets, you know, I could say, huh? Sure. I feel like I write too many messages to you and Mark, the way it is. So now each one of these widgets then is going to be in a div class widget with an H2, right? And now, like I said, I put all my other chunks of information in the sidebar and their own div tags, you know, class widget. It's kind of a thing, I don't know. You can do whatever you want, but yay, that's custom fields and widgets. Who wants to sign off today?
Say what?
Who wants to sign off today?
Oh, we never started caring about people that don't come to class.
That's how we're signing off? Apparently, we don't care about people that aren't coming to class. That's kind of mean. It's not as mean as the extra assignment thing, which I totally didn't mean. Who heard that on the recording? Beth and Maddie? Were you guys like, what? Yeah. Just kidding, Beth and Maddie.